I'm Ruth and this is my channel, So Dysfunctional. Welcome along if you are new or if you're a subscriber and you've been here before, it's nice to see you again. So this is an episode of Friday Sews, which is basically just a bit of a catch up on what I've been doing sewing wise and what I'm making. I haven't done one of these for quite a while. I pretty much say this at the beginning of every video. I've been really busy with the kids and I've actually had some work recently. So I work as a singer and obviously during the pandemic there hasn't really been very much work at all. But just by sheer luck I had 3 different projects in the first 3 weeks of June, which has been so nice, and it really made me realise how much of a difference it makes to my mood to be out working, doing something else. I thought I was ticking along okay, which for the most part I was, but my motivation to do things has really dropped, and as soon as I got out and did some other work and saw some of my colleagues who I haven't seen for a long time, my desire to come back and do some sewing and things like that really increased quite quickly. So what have I been up to? Well, I'm going to start with a few patterns that I have bought recently. So I actually bought 3 patterns from Sew Liberated. If I can remember what they are, they're the Otis overalls or dungarees, I'm not quite sure what they call them, the Paloma top, and another top that I can't remember the name of. I'll put it down here so that you can see what it's called. It's a sort of v-necked blouse type thing. I do have the Hinterland dress of theirs, but I haven't made that yet. But I really liked the look of those patterns that I've bought. So I'm hoping that I'll get at least 1 or 2 of those made up in the near future. I also bought a couple of sewing magazines recently, which isn't like me, but I had a couple of train journeys here and there, and I thought it would be nice to have a sewing magazine to read. So I've got some free patterns that came with those, and the ones that I'm kind of interested in actually doing. There's this pattern, it's a simplicity pattern, K9124. I'm assuming they are generally available as well. Obviously it says it's been produced in association with sewmag.co.uk, so if it's not kind of in their catalogue it might be worth nipping onto the magazine website and having a look. It's just a loose throw-on jacket, no fastenings or anything. I got some fabric from Sew Over It a long time ago that I wanted to make into something like this, and I just didn't have a decent pattern, so I'm hoping that that will be a good one just as a kind of summer throw it over t-shirt type thing. I also got, this is Simplicity K8375. I didn't particularly buy the magazine for this pattern, but it's one of their pattern hacking tops, and it's basically like a jersey shift dress that you can turn into a top or do various things with. I wouldn't wear a shift dress like this, they're not really a good shape for me, but if I cut it off at sort of hip level it should be a good top. And again, I always think it's quite good to make different tops that have slightly different style lines, to find different necklines that you like, or sleeve lengths or sleeve styles or whatever. So I'll probably end up making a top with that. Yeah, just a very basic thing, but should be interesting to try it. I have actually been making some things recently. I've made a couple of Deer and Doe plantain t-shirts, and I have been making a mock-up of the Waves and Wild, previously made by Jack's mum, Heyday dungarees. So I'm going to pop some videos in of me showing you those now, and then come back in a minute and I'll talk to you about some fabric. So here's my first Deer and Doe plantain t-shirt. I made it this time size 42 all over. I took a little bit in on the side seams, in at the bust, just under the arm, armhole on the sides. When I made this before, I graded from a 38 at the top down to a 42 at the hip, and what I found was that it was just a little bit too narrow across the high bust around my chest and across my back. So now I've got the size 42 here and up to the hip, and I've just taken a tiny little bit out there which just brings it in a little bit. It's not completely fitted, it's still got a bit of space around the waist. It's not designed to be tight around the waist, this one. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. This fabric was from Lamazi Fabrics. I bought it a little while ago. It was in a group of fabrics I showed in one of my Friday sews a couple of months ago. It's faded a little bit, to be honest. I've worn it quite a lot though, and it's just really, really comfy. It's just a viscose jersey. It's really nice. I've been really happy with it. So yeah, thumbs up for this one. And this is the second plantain t-shirt that I've made. I bought this fabric from Lamazi again, but a much longer time ago, and I was planning to make the Maven Somerset top with it, but I just didn't have enough. So in the end, I've opted for this t-shirt. I say I'm not quite sure about the fabric itself. It looked quite different to me on screen, so this wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be. But I think it's all right. I think it's an okay colour. The only thing about it is it's a lot less stretchy. I'm not sure it's actually got any elastane in it, so I made the neckband slightly longer than the neckband that I did on the previous version I just showed you, and it's okay, but I think I've possibly overdone it a little bit because I don't know if you can see very well, but it's not lying completely flat, so I think I possibly gave it a little bit too much extra length. But hopefully once I've worn it a bit, it'll shrink a little bit anyway. And not that I haven't pre-washed, I do always pre-wash my fabrics, but I quite often find that they still shrink a little bit as you go when you've worn them a few times. So anyway, it's not a big deal, it doesn't stick out that much, and I don't think anyone would notice it except me. Here are my Heyday dungarees. I cut out a size extra large, which by my measurements should have been fine. So my hip measurement at the moment is 44, and the range for an extra large is 43 to 46. I'll talk about that in a minute. And I think the waist was 34 to 36 and my waist is 36. So it should be fine. My bust probably sits in about a medium. So as you can see, one of the first problems I've got is, well, I haven't turned this side over. I hemmed this side. I just think the front bib is too wide for my chest. There's just a whole myriad of fitting issues going on here. Where shall I start? Okay, let's start with the hips. So unless I'm measuring my hips in completely the wrong place, which is a possibility, but I was always taught to measure at the widest point, and it's roughly, say, 8 inches, I think, down from your waist. But I mean, I tend to measure around the fullest part, around my bum, and right here, that's 44. And actually, if I move it down, it's 44 pretty much all over the place. It's just that I carry some of that 44 more on the front or the back in different places. But if the hip measurement range is 43 to 46, I really thought that I would have plenty of space, and they're supposed to fit as a loose fit dungaree. So I cannot imagine if you had a 46-inch hip that you would get these on. I mean, I struggled a little bit to get them on anyway. That's the first thing. They're definitely not wide enough on the hips. And looking at the difference between the extra large to the 2 extra large, it was less than a centimetre on every seam, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 leg seams. I don't know, I suppose 8 centimetres might be enough extra if I went up a size. But then you move on to the other parts of the dungaree. So this pattern is designed to be loose fit. If I turn to the side, you can see it's got loads of room at the back, and it's meant to be relatively baggy because there's no opening to get in here. So you need to be able to get this amount over your hips, and this is definitely quite a lot smaller measurement than my hips, and you can sort of just about wiggle it on. I think if you made this in a slightly stretchy fabric, it would obviously make it easier, but that's not what it says in the fabric suggestions. It doesn't suggest that you have to use stretch. So it was a bit of a wiggle to get that on over my hips, I have to say. Back here to the age-old issue of not really liking the style on me. So these dungarees look brilliant on loads of people, and they're actually really similar to the Lucy and Yak dungarees that you can buy. But when I tried a pair of those on, the bibs came up really short, and I'm not a tall person. Like, they sort of sat literally just over your nipple area, and it wasn't very comfortable, and it just looked a bit odd, I thought, on me. So I was hoping that these would be a better fit from that point of view, and they definitely are. The rise is much higher on the front and the back, and I think that's more what I would want. But there's just loads and loads of this again at the back, and you can't shape this pattern in really unless you then adjust it to have an opening either at one or both side seams, because if you start shaping that in, you're losing the space to get in here. So what does this boil down to? I kind of feel like the pattern is possibly slightly out on the measurements, although if you go on the Waves and Wild Facebook group, which is what they've renamed the Made by Jack's Mum pattern company to, loads of people talk about this pattern coming up big and quite often having to size down. I'm not quite sure why it's come up so small. I really thought, I mean, I nearly made it in a large thinking, oh, I'm sure there'll be plenty. So yeah, I'm left feeling a bit confused by this one. And also, again, it's making me think about what styles suit me. I suppose it should have been a slight red flag. When I tried on the Lucy and Yaks, they had a little bit of this issue going on. But because they were made in a slightly stretchy cord, I think they were just a smaller fit overall, and so they could fit a bit closer without not having enough give in them. I do find that if I go really straight up and down, as I've said before, I just feel like a bit at the sack. And what I really need, because I do curve in quite a lot at the back, is I really need that shaping in at the back. I don't like this that much, but as I say, I'd have to have this space to get it over my hips. So I suppose the take home from it is this is not a big enough size to start with, although going up another size for the bottom I'd have to take it in quite a bit on the top because I just do feel like the bib's too wide. And I just don't think this is quite the right shape for my body shape. So perhaps this is a pattern that I'm going to put away. I was really hoping that this would turn out okay, and I could make it up in some linen viscose that I've got as a sort of summery pair of dungarees. But I've been slightly put off, I think, by this. So maybe I just need to stick to separates a bit more, tops and bottoms. What do you reckon? Do you reckon it's worth me bothering? I feel like it's going to take a lot of effort and fiddling to get this to a place where I'm happy with it. And truth be told, I'm not sure that I can be bothered. I just want some nice, quick, simple, easy makes to make me feel like I'm progressing a bit with my sewing. So maybe this is one to avoid for now and maybe come back to when I've got a bit more time. It's more comfortable now I've had it on for a little bit than I thought it was going to be when I first wiggled into it. But there's definitely not enough room. Not exactly a sewing win, is it, this one? Having made those dungarees out of one side of a single duvet cover, I'm actually left with the other side, which is this blue stripe, and I actually quite like it. So I was going to make a mock-up of something using this again, but actually I quite like the fabric, so I might use it to make an actual thing. It's a 50% polyester, 50% cotton, as quite often a lot of bedding is. But I've got quite a lot of it, so I could easily make either some kind of top for me or possibly a dress for my daughter out of it. Just thought it's quite a nice stripe in that it's got a thicker stripe and then two narrow ones either side. What do you think it would be good as? Something for me? Or will I look like I'm wearing a duvet? Let me know what you think. When I was working, I got the chance to do a little bit of charity shop shopping, and I bought this. This is just a sea salt label t-shirt. They call it the sailor t-shirt, and it's an organic cotton fabric, but it's a size 26. So it's actually a very, very boxy t-shirt, but there's plenty of fabric in it for me to make my own t-shirt. So I thought probably what I would do, because I really liked the fabric, is I will just cut this t-shirt down and either make another deer and doe plantain tee or try that simplicity pattern that I talked about earlier with it. I just think it's a really nice fabric, and it was I don't know. I mean, it looks like it's brand new, and it was about £4 from the charity shop. I thought, well, that's cheaper than buying a metre of organic cotton jersey fabric, isn't it? So you can't really go wrong. Also, while I was working, I realised that I was very, very close to rainbow fabrics in Kilburn. I hadn't really appreciated, they popped up a lot over the last year on other people's YouTube vlogs and things. They're basically a sort of a shop within a market in Kilburn, but they have moved online, I think, over the last year so that they could sell some of their fabrics to a wider range of people. Now, they don't have anywhere near the amount of fabric that they've got in the physical shop online. So I thought it might be nice to go and have a little nosy around in there. And it's a real kind of Aladdin's cave. It's not very big, but it's packed with lots and lots of different fabrics. So I had a lovely time wandering around there, and I bought two things. So the first thing I bought is this viscose fabric, which I thought was really, really fun. It's lovely kind of deep ochre colour with these terracotta flowers and leaves and things. I really like it. I think I bought 3 meters of it, and it was £4 a metre or something like that. Oh, maybe I bought 4 meters actually. I think maybe I might have bought 4 meters, thinking that I would have a go at the Sew Over It penny dress with it. Whether I will or not, I don't know. It's very soft, but it hasn't been washed yet, so it will probably shrink. Viscose does tend to shrink quite a bit, so I need to pre-wash that. The other thing I bought was a bolt of cotton, and it's this cotton with sort of blue and yellow pinky flowers on it. This was actually a cut piece. I think it's 3 or 4 meters. It was about £15, about £5 a metre or something. I'm planning to make certainly a dress for my little girl using this, and possibly even one for me. I couldn't quite decide. I really liked the look of the fabric, but I couldn't decide if it would suit me as a garment. What do you think? It'll definitely suit her. I could easily, I suppose, make shorts or 3/4 length trousers maybe, if I didn't think it looked good against my skin on my face. But yeah, lots of possibilities with that, and I just think it's a really nice fabric. I don't tend to go for florals, but I don't know, I was quite drawn to that one. And lastly, in a slightly mad moment, when I was walking past a charity shop in my hometown, I bought a pair of curtains. I don't know if these curtains would actually fit the windows in our house. We've got very long windows, and they're generally in pairs within the rooms, and I've only got a pair of curtains, so I could only hang them up in one window. So I don't expect that we will sort of keep them as curtains. I really, really like the fabric, and I just got kind of crazy ideas about possibly making a pair of dungarees or a dress or something. I mean, there's so much fabric in these. They are massive. But I just really I like the colour. I like this pattern. It's got borders down it, and the curtains are put together in panels. So I'm not quite sure how wide the panels are. There's a seam there between these two panels, and then I don't think there's one there, and that's the end of the curtain. So it's possibly got 2 panels on each piece, I guess. So maybe they're just in half. Yes, they are, look. And then there's another panel there. They are absolutely huge, and I've got 2 of them. And I just thought, do you know what, even if I just use this fabric for making mock-ups of other patterns, I've got 2 curtains this size, and they're fully lined. So I've got that much fabric to play with. So even if I don't actually make something that I think I'm going to wear without looking like I'm wearing a pair of curtains, I've got loads of fabric to practice patterns with, and yeah, do what I like with, really. I mean, I would be tempted even to take a panel of this and just hem it and hang it on a wall, because I think it's really, really pretty. I'll need to wash it. It says dry clean only, as curtains do, but so I suspect that the kind of sheen that it's got will come off, but I'm not going to fiddle around with dry cleaning. I will shove it in the washing machine and see what that does to it. So I think those curtains were about, I think I paid about £20 for those, and I've got meters and meters of fabric there. So even if it never actually sees the light of day as a piece of clothing, it will have been a good buy for making mock-ups of things. So I think that's all I've got to talk to you about today. Finally made a few things. Bought some new fabrics, which has been really nice, and some new patterns. Bit disappointed about those Waves and Wild Heyday dungarees, I have to say. So I'm going to have to pick myself up and move on, because I've got lots of patterns that I haven't made, and much as it's nice to make something and know it's definitely going to fit, doing the same pattern over and over again, I really do want to get on and try some different things. So I shall pick myself up, make sure I measure very carefully, be making some more trials of things, I'm sure. And hopefully I will be back soon with something else to show you. So I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for watching today. If you're not a subscriber and you would like to see my next video, please do click on the subscribe button, and you'll hear when my next video comes out. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!